Hello, my name is Kate Zielinski. I'm one of the Academic Learning Advisors at the Skills Centre at Sheffield Hallam University. And in this screencast, I've got 7 top tips for you, which are mainly aimed at those of you who are starting out as a student at university for the first time. However, the tips will also be useful for anyone returning to learning after a break, or who just want some quick ideas for more effective studying. I'm just going to give you an overview of what to expect in this screencast now. So I'll start by briefly mentioning what learning at university is like to put the 7 tips in context. Then I'm going to cover each of the 7 tips that are listed here in more detail. Each tip will have examples and links to further resources so that you can follow up after watching the screencast if you wish. We'll be looking at knowing your strengths, managing your time, organising yourself, understanding assignment briefs, structuring your assignments, working well in groups, and where and how to access further study skills sessions and support. So, what is learning at university like? Well, the focus is on independent learning, also referred to as self-directed study. And while this might seem quite obvious, we may not be fully aware of what this actually looks like. So here are a couple of student quotes about independent learning, which I think summarise it quite well. Independent learning is all about learning on your own, motivating yourself to do your own work, studying in your own time, the things that you don't do in lectures, like reading books, things like that. And secondly, the lecturers kind of set you in the right direction and show you where to go, but it's up to you to go and do the research. So let's begin with the first tip, which is about knowing your own strengths. If you know what sort of person you are when it comes to studying, then this means you can play to your strengths and make the most of the time and resources available to you. So have a think about what sort of learner you are. Are you the sort of person who likes information presented visually, for example? If so, then knowing this will help you choose resources which suit this style of working. Maybe you work well under pressure, but maybe you don't. Knowing yourself can help you plan the best way of organising your time. Perhaps you work best in a quiet environment, or maybe you prefer to talk things through with others. Perhaps you like to take your time over things, in which case you can plan to start early. So, understanding how you learn is key. This is also known as metacognition. Metacognition can be defined as knowing about knowing, or awareness and understanding of one's own thought processes. It can also be thought of as knowing how you learn. Well, how can this help you? Well, thinking about how you learn and what works for you can really help to build self-esteem and motivation. It can encourage active learning and keep you engaged with your studies. Developing metacognition also means recognizing when you require additional skills or support. Being aware of your strengths and areas of difficulty is crucial for developing metacognition. So, if you know how you learn best, you can develop a plan that suits your style before you start on a task. However, metacognition isn't just about thinking through things before you start. It's an ongoing process. So along the way, you need to monitor how things are going, asking yourself, is my plan working? What might help at this point? And fixing or changing the plan or the way you approach the work if it's not going well. It's also important to evaluate or think about how things went once you've finished the task, so that you can be aware of what worked and keep doing those things, and be aware of what didn't work so you can avoid that next time around. So, to give a specific example, maybe you know that you find reading complex work quite difficult, and you know that the chapter you've been given to read is quite a complex one. So, you think about what learning strategies might be helpful, and you decide that if you scan the text first, it will help you understand the overall meaning. As you're reading, you think about whether scanning has helped you and decide that it has. And after completing the task, you decide that you will use scanning again, but that you also need a better strategy for note-taking, as your notes are really long, and you think it will be more useful if you could have shorter notes to revise from. There's a link in the description to a YouTube video about metacognition if you want to know more. Here are some useful metacognition questions to get you started on thinking about how you learn. So before starting a task, you can ask, how is this relevant to me? Or what do I already know that will help me? During the task, take a brief time out and ask yourself, how am I doing? Am I on the right track here? After finishing a task, you could ask yourself, how well did I do? Better or worse than I thought? And then you could ask, what could I do differently or the same? The answers to these questions will help you improve your metacognition, help you improve your understanding of the way you learn, and that will help you to maximise your strengths and get your best out of the time at university. So, our second tip is all about managing your time at university well. University life might feel a bit like this picture, where lots of different things are competing for your time and attention, and it's hard to work out how you can fit everything in. Your tutors will be asking you to do coursework and assignments. Your friends and family will want to see you. You may have hobbies and interests you want to pursue, and the university experience will give you lots of new opportunities. On top of all this, you also need to eat and sleep and look after your physical and mental well-being. So having some strategies to manage your time well is really important if you're to find a balance between all these competing demands. So the Skills Centre has a whole separate range of resources on time management, which you can look at, but for now, I would just give you the following to get you started. So firstly, it can be useful to think about which tasks are urgent, which are not so urgent, and which ones are what I call distractions. The idea here is to prioritise the most urgent tasks first. You can always reward yourself with the distractions, by which I mean fun things like hobbies or socialising or checking social media. Once you've set your priorities, it can be more effective to plan focused, shorter chunks of time to work in. So rather than telling yourself you're going to work all day on that assignment, you can think about what time of day you're most productive. Maybe you work best in the morning or later in the day. Schedule some chunks of time, lasting anywhere from 25 minutes to a couple of hours each, with breaks in between. Experiment with what suits you. If you find it hard to maintain focus on your work, there are some useful tools and apps which can help you with this. I put links to all these in the description. The first one is a tomato timer app, and this is based on a time management technique created by Francesco Cirillo called the Pomodoro technique. With this technique, you work in short bursts of 25 minutes with short breaks in between, and then a longer break after you've completed 4 tomatoes or chunks of time. So the app just provides a simple timer and a way to track how many tomatoes you have completed. Another app which can help you stay focused is called Forest. With this app, you plant a virtual tree when you want to stay focused, and whilst you work, the tree will grow in the app. But if you leave the app halfway through, the tree will die. So the idea here is to motivate you to keep focused on the task so you can keep your tree growing. And the final one I'm going to suggest here is called Cold Turkey. So this is an app that lets you block applications, the whole internet, or even your entire computer to help you avoid distractions while you're working. So if you do find that you are distracted from the task at hand and you find yourself checking your social media or getting distracted by emails popping up, then this can be a really useful app to silence those other distractions, and you can schedule them into your break times or to another time of the day when you're not working. Okay, tip number 3 is about getting organised. At university, you're going to be juggling several different modules, each with their own lectures, seminars and assignments. So it's important to be organised so you can be efficient and make the most of your precious time. So the first thing you could do is create a schedule for yourself. You can use an app, a calendar such as your Gmail calendar, or a simple table in a Word document. Our time management resources online at the Skills Centre have some templates you can download, and I've put the links in the description. The idea of this, though, is to be aware of what is coming up each week. You can start by filling in your regular commitments like lectures or seminars. Fill in blocks of time for working on coursework, and then add in time for fun activities, rest or social time. For assignments, it's important to have an overview of what assignments you have and what the deadlines are. As I mentioned, you will be juggling different modules and some of the assignments will perhaps come very close together. So just creating a simple list of assignments and deadlines and sticking it somewhere where you can see it is a really useful first step. For individual assignments, you can plan backwards from the deadline to work out what you need to have done by when in order to finish it on time. You could use an online assignment calculator to help with this, and I'll put a link to an example in the description. Finally, have a think about how you're going to organise your information. This can really save you a lot of time and stress so that you can find things quickly and easily. Set up different folders, whether they be paper folders or online folders for each module, and file your lecture and seminar notes in there as you're going along. Save your documents with titles that say clearly what the document is. So tip number 4 is about understanding your assignment briefs. Breaking down the question you've been given in your assignment brief is the most important thing you can do before starting to work on an assignment. It's going to help you make sure that you are answering the question or the task in the way that the tutor wants you to. It's possible to write a really good assignment but to fail the task because you didn't answer the question you were set. So the following slides talk you through a simple technique for breaking down an assignment question to check that you really understand what you're being asked to do. From there, planning out the structure of your answer is much easier, and more on this in tip number 5. So the first step in the process for approaching your question and breaking it down is to look for what I call the instruction word, or the doing word, or the verb. In academic assignments, these words tend to be something like evaluate, or assess, or discuss, or explain. They are often at the start of the question, but not always. So scan through and highlight any instruction words that you see, bearing in mind that there may be more than one. In the example given here, the instruction word is evaluate. At this point, it's worth asking yourself, what does the instruction word actually mean? What does evaluate mean? If you're unsure, you could check in a dictionary or look at the Skills Centre handout, which lists a lot of these instruction words and explains what they mean. The link is in the description. Evaluate means to determine the value of something. In other words, to say what is good and what is not so good about something and come to a judgment. So if I evaluate your performance in your job, I tell you what you're doing well, what you're not doing so well, and come to a conclusion overall about how well you are performing. So knowing this, knowing what the word evaluate means, really gives you a lot of guidance as to what's expected in the assignment. You would want to be looking at the positive impacts and the negative impacts and coming to some sort of conclusion about the overall effect. So once you know the instruction word is evaluate, you need to ask yourself, evaluate what? And this is the topic of the assignment. So scanning back through your question, ask yourself, what do I have to evaluate? In this example, you're being asked to evaluate the impact of the rise in tuition fees on student recruitment. So you know that this is the focus of your essay. If you write stuff about other factors which have impacted on student recruitment, you may not be answering the question and therefore may not gain marks for what you've written. Keep coming back to the topic or focus to check that you haven't strayed too far away from the point. So the final step is to look for what I call any limiting factors. These are clues which tell you what to include or not include. So in this case, you're being asked to only include discussion of student recruitment in the UK, not in other countries. You're also being asked to only think about tuition fees at £9,000 per year, so we're not evaluating the impact of when they were lower. Once again, if you do go outside of these limits, you won't get extra marks, and if you don't write about the things that are specified in these limits, you will most likely not pass the assignment. So I would recommend getting 3 coloured highlighters or using the highlight function in Word to literally identify each of the 3 aspects of the question in this way in different colours. So your assignment question might end up looking something like this. If you get into the habit of doing this before you start doing anything else for the assignment, you will be able to keep your focus and make sure you're answering the question that the tutor wanted you to. You should also look at the other information in the assignment brief, as tutors will often give guidance as to how they want you to approach the question. Some will even give detailed breakdowns of a suitable structure. And that leads us nicely on to the next tip. One of the features of good academic writing is that it is well structured. If you have a good structure, it makes your assignment clear and easy to read and understand. In addition, there are often marks set aside for having a good structure and a good academic writing style, because this is one of the skills you're developing at university. This diagram gives an overview of a good structure for any written assignment. I have put a link in the description to a PDF version so that you can download it, as I'm aware it looks a bit small on the slide here and you can't read all the detail. But I'm just presenting it here so you can get a sense of what a structure might look like. So on the left-hand side, you can see the idea that any assignment needs an introduction, a middle, made up of a number of paragraphs, and a conclusion. There is some guidance about what should go into a good introduction and a conclusion, and what percentage of the overall word count an introduction should use, roughly 5 to 10% for each. When we come to the main body of your assignment, this is constructed of paragraphs on topics that are relevant to answering your assignment. Each paragraph should focus on one idea or one point only, and in the middle of the diagram here you can see a suggested structure for each paragraph. The idea is that each paragraph is almost like a mini assignment with its own introductory sentence, middle, and mini conclusion. Your paragraphs need to be in a logical order. So this means the topic of each paragraph needs to progress in an order that makes sense. So for instance, not jumping from topic A to topic B to C, then back to A again. It can be really helpful to identify what the topic of each paragraph is. You could use a subheading to help with this as you're writing and then maybe delete the subheadings afterwards. So ask yourself, what is the topic that this paragraph is about? And making sure that everything you write in that paragraph relates to that topic. You could work out what is the best order to put your points in, perhaps by writing each paragraph heading on a post-it note and trying shuffling them around, asking yourself, does it make more sense for some topics to be moved, to appear before or after others? This might also help you to see if you've repeated yourself, in which case you can remove any repetitions. So once again, the Skills Centre has more in-depth resources on planning and structuring assignments for you to access. I'm just trying to give a quick overview and taster here. So the other useful tip I want to give you about structure is to consider how to use what are called signposting phrases to improve the academic style and structure of your writing. So signposting phrases do what it says on the tin. They signpost the reader to what is coming. You can see some examples here in the table. So by using a word like similarly, you're indicating to the reader that what you're about to say is along the same lines as something that went just before. Whereas if you use the word alternatively, it flags up immediately that you're going to give a different viewpoint. So we use signposting language throughout academic writing as a tool for giving a clear structure. You can find more signposting phrases and other suggestions for suitable academic language by looking at the Manchester Academic Phrase Bank. So the link's in the description, or you can just Google Manchester Academic Phrase Bank, and the resource gives a huge range of different wordings that you can copy, paste and adapt for use in your own assignments. Okay, tip number 6, working well in groups. Depending on the course you're studying, you may be asked to work in small groups during taught sessions, and you may be set assignments to be completed together with other students in a group. So having some tips about how to work well together is really important, as there can be frustrations as well as benefits to working with others. So, 2 top tips I want to give you for working well in groups. So firstly, agree what everyone is going to be doing. As a group, you need to work out what the task is that you've been given. So you could use the technique for breaking down the question that I gave you earlier in this screencast to help with this. But as a group, it's really important that the task is then divided up between the group members, and that whatever is agreed is written down so that everyone knows who is doing what. An email sent round to everyone in the group after you have met to decide is an important record, so that you're all working to the same expectations. So when deciding who is going to do what, it's really useful to take into account people's strengths and interests, as well as their weaker areas. So you can see how the idea of metacognition about knowing yourself can come into play here. So one of the benefits of working in a group is that you can pool your skills to get the best outcome for all of you. If each person can play to their strengths, then as a group you're likely to get a better outcome overall. So secondly, as well as thinking about what you are going to be doing, it's just as important to think about how you are going to work together. A lot of problems and frustrations in group work come down to people having different expectations about how to work together, and maybe feeling uncomfortable or feeling that they're not included in the group work process. So think about setting some ground rules about how you will work together. For example, that one person speaks at a time, or that you'll have time individually or in pairs to think through ideas before sharing them as a whole group. These sorts of things can help prevent quieter people's ideas from not being heard. And just because people are quiet doesn't mean that they don't have really good ideas to contribute. If you don't hear them, then as a group, you're not going to do as well as you could have done. And finally, as I've mentioned a number of times in this screencast, there are many more resources and lots of additional support to help you develop your study skills whilst at university. So I really encourage you to make use of it all. If things aren't going to plan, or you're not sure how to get started on something, you can book a one-to-one with a Skills Centre advisor, attend a group session on a particular topic, such as academic writing, or speak to your tutor for advice. But you don't have to be struggling to access our service. We're here to help you develop and improve your academic skills. So if you're doing well but want to know how to take it to the next level, we're here to help. In some cases, you may be able to get an extension on your work if there are particular reasons why you might need this. So I just want to give you a quick overview of the other services and support that the Skills Centre offers, so that you can explore these in your own time. So the Skills Centre also offers webinars on a wide variety of topics, everything from time management to critical writing and more. We offer one-to-one appointments which last 30 minutes. These are with an advisor online using video calling or over the telephone. And in these you can discuss anything related to academic writing, skills, or studying, or bring a piece of work to discuss. We run online writing forums, which are small group sessions of up to 3 people, where you can bring an example of your work and receive feedback from a learning advisor, and discuss and give feedback to other students. Our online resources are a wealth of self-directed learning materials which you can access 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from our website. These include study guides, handouts, videos, and links to other relevant materials on a whole range of topics covering effective study skills, academic writing, and research. And finally, Studiosity is our online writing feedback service, where you can upload your work and receive feedback from an academic writing specialist on aspects such as structure, style, and grammar. Our Assistive Technology team are a small group of specialists who can guide you through the benefits of using some of the software packages that are available to all students through the Apps Anywhere icon, which is this little red cloud symbol. You'll find it available on all university networked computers. So the online sessions cover a range of different software packages, including MindView, which is a mind mapping software, Office 365, looking at the tools in there for reading and research, and Audio Note Taker and Glean, which are both apps which allow you to record lecture audio and combine it with slides and your own notes. You can find out more about the sessions that the Assistive Technology Service offer and how to book by checking out their webpage. Links in the description. If Maths and Stats is part of your course, you can book an individual appointment or download resources from their website. So they provide free individual support for any mathematical or statistical aspect of your course. Again, use the link to the website to find out more information and to book a session. To access the Skills Centre services, head to our website where you can view the current schedule of webinars, forums, and available one-to-one appointments. We add new dates and times to our website every 2 weeks, and you can book all of our sessions from the website or via UniHub, which is the university's online appointment booking system. The first time you book with us, you'll be directed to the UniHub site to register there as well. So the link to our website is given on the slide here, or you can find it in the description below. And you'll also find links to the Assistive Technology, Maths and Stats, and Studiosity services at the bottom of the Skills Centre homepage. If you want to get in touch or to ask a question, you can email us at skillscentre@shu.ac.uk or connect with us on Twitter using @HallamSkills. So thank you for watching this screencast. I really hope it's given you some useful tips and ideas to get started with, and I hope to see you at another Skills Centre session in the future.